In today's Leeds news, Cellino criticises Radrizzani's ownership, Leeds under-21s in action, this season feels different, Leeds linked with Hume, and Boro want Cresswell. Morning folks, Jerry here on December 4th, Monday morning with your Leeds United news. Good result for Leeds of the weekend, another home win. If you haven't checked out the match view and you want to have a listen to that, you can. It is available somewhere up here. I'll link it as a card and it'll be available at the end of the channel, at the end of this video as well. In one of the boxes, you can see it there as well. We talked about the game, got into tactical breakdowns as well with Max and Lockie as well, so some interesting pieces there as well if you want to go check that out. Also, just to let everybody know, all the podcasts, match reviews are all available on Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts now as well, so you can check them out under the view as well. That's there as well. We'll crack on, we'll get into the funnier stuff from today because there's a bit of stuff flying around, and we'll start off with Massimo Cellino. I know, right? Cellino has been speaking to the Daily Mail about his time at Leeds United as well as other things, but he has brought up Andrea Radrizzani, and the former owner has blasted his successor, Andrea Radrizzani, tenure at Leeds United. Cellino bought Leeds United from GFH Capital back in 2014 and was seen, at least in the media, of GFH as a bit of a saviour from Leeds after what had gone on at GFH Capital. His first act, however, was to sack then manager Brian McDermott, who was liked by the Leeds fans. During that spell, Brian did return and finished out the season, and we'll get to that at the end of this as well because he was speaking about that as well. And there is an interview with Brian McDermott on the channel as well. If you've never seen that or want to check it out, I'll link that again at the end as well. You can check that out because we do talk about what happened there as well. During Cellino's time at Leeds United, he did sack 8 managers in total, and in early 2017 Radrizzani bought a 50% stake in Leeds United from Massimo Cellino before later completing as a full buyout later in 2017. Cellino has slammed his successor though, especially the management of the club, and Radrizzani saying that Radrizzani had been relieved that the club did not get promoted under the Gary Monk era that season, as he would have to have paid more to buy Leeds than if Leeds had stayed in the Championship. As Leeds stayed in the Championship, he was able to buy the club off of Massimo Cellino for 50% less than the agreed price had they gotten promoted. He said that when Leeds stayed down, he was relieved that Leeds had stayed down. Cellino went on to say that it was in his interest for the both of them to continue on together, but Radrizzani didn't want that. In the Daily Mail, he said that he wanted to buy all the club, he did it, and after 2 months, he sent me a message that said, "I made a big mistake, I've been such a fool." And Cellino also pointed out Radrizzani didn't know football. He went on to say that Andrea sold and bought players because he enjoyed doing that, not because they needed to buy or sell players. He said he just enjoyed it. He said they were amateurs, they were dangerous. He said, but I think they tried to be good for Leeds, but in the end they weren't good enough for Leeds. Cellino did during this interview admit that he made plenty of mistakes himself as the manager of Leeds, being banned 3 separate times as owner of Leeds United during that time, as well as boats, cars they tried to sneak into the UK, lots of other stuff, and sacking tons of managers. But he did say that he always had the best of intentions for Leeds and that he never did anything bad, at least not deliberately. In this interview, he went on to talk about the dismissal of Brian McDermott, where he said his first day at the club, he said his English wasn't great and his phrasing wasn't great. And when he went into his new owner's office, there was a purple sofa. Anyone who knows the history of Massimo Cellino knows he's highly superstitious, and number 17 and the colour purple were banned from Elland Road completely. In this, he said that he saw a purple couch and said, "Get rid of the couch." He said the following day he was asked who's taking the team for the Huddersfield game, and he said the manager is, and they said, well, you've sacked the manager, and he said he wanted to get rid of the couch, not the coach. Now, I did send a message to Brian McDermott over the weekend and just say, what do you think of this? It's a bit of Cellino trying to rewrite his history, I think, as well. Brian said he does like an anecdotal story, he said, but no, not true. And you can check out the full interview of Brian McDermott as well if you wanted to see what actually happened that day at Leeds and what he went through with Massimo Cellino as owner. So Massimo Cellino can do all of this, all he wants. His tenure at Leeds was awful. One of the worst periods in the club's history, straight after GFH, which was also one of the worst periods in Leeds history. The only thing good that Cellino did was he sold the club to Radrizzani to at least move Leeds forward slightly to get promoted, and then he sold the club on. So, in the end, kind of ended well, did it? Back in the Championship? I don't know. How does everyone feel about Cellino's ownership? Because I met the guy twice. I thought he was a lovely guy when I met him twice. He was very nice to me. We had a nice chat. But an absolute basket case of an owner. I think we can all agree as well. Just crazy times. If you remember supporting Leeds then, the new American supporters, you won't remember any of that. It was a time. Moving on, let's talk about the under-21s. They're in action tonight. They take on Newcastle United at 7 p.m. Kickoff time in the Northumberland FA grounds. The game is live on LUTV. If you want to get some Leeds fix before our game next weekend, you can do that tonight on LUTV. You can go check that out. Moving on, let's talk about Chris Summerville. He's been describing this season as fresh and feeling different. In speaking with LUTV, Summerville has described the club as a different place from last season. Summerville has pointed out the change of environment at the club since Daniel Farke came in and took control at Leeds United. He's not been the only player to talk about the differences at Leeds. Ilham Elias talked about it a few weeks ago as well. Summerville is having a fantastic season this year. He's got 8 goals and 6 assists in 19 games so far, looking by a mile the standout player in the Championship and continues to score goals on a regular basis. Summerville said the group is more cohesive this season than it was last year, and he said that it's not just the players that are playing, it's also the subs that come off the bench. Everybody is ready to go. He described himself as being in a really good place, as well as the rest of the squad as well, and said that he feels like everybody is in this together. The last time we kind of heard those words being mentioned, it was the promotion season that Leeds went up. It's great to see that's going on. It's great to see Daniel Farkas having a positive influence, and especially on Chris Summerville. He's having a season of his life this year. Really, really is. I wanted to ask people about this was the cohesive group comment is an interesting comment because there's a lot of players out on loan, and if Leeds do manage to get promoted, they're all going to come back. Some may stay, some may be sold. That is going to upset that cohesive dressing room. If it wasn't cohesive last year, and it is this year, and those players come back into it, what happens there? That has been the biggest fear for me of how did these players come back into that dressing room? That's going to be the problem. Moving on to the transfer news, we've got 2 stories on transfers, one in and one out, and we'll start off with the incoming one. And according to Team Talk, Leicester, Leeds and Burnley are all interested in Sunderland and Northern Ireland right back Trei, Hume, as a long-term replacement for Luke Ayling from the Leeds side. Anyway, Leeds have looked at a number of young right backs recently. We've talked about the lads in Ireland they've looked at. They're continuing to do that with Hume, who's a Northern Irish international as well. Leeds do have, of course, Jed Spence on loan at the moment, but this will be seen as a more long-term option for Leeds going into the future. He's having a good time though at Sunderland, is Hume. He's had 37 appearances in 18 months at the club, and is this year has become an ever-present in the right back slot as well, and a season that's been a pretty decent start to the season for Sunderland so far. Anyway, Hume's contract doesn't run out at Sunderland, however, until the summer of 2027, so if Leeds were to buy him, they would need to put a substantial bid in place of this level. Anyway, Northern Ireland boss Michael O'Neill has also described the player as being an exceptional fullback as well, so it's something for Leeds fans to keep an eye on. There's news happening there, and we're waiting to see. Leeds clearly looking at the right back position, and a more longer term, bringing in a younger player who can stay with the club for a longer period of time as well and give us options at right back. So Archie Gray can play in midfield where he's supposed to play. Moving on, let's talk about Charlie Cresswell. According to the Sun's Alan Nixon, Middlesbrough want to sign the Leeds United centre back in January. Michael Carrick did make Charlie Cresswell a priority for him in last January and did try to sign the player on a permanent deal last January. Leeds did consider the move at the time, but decided to keep hold of Charlie, who was out on loan at Millwall at that point. Now it claims that Cresswell is keen to move in order to play some minutes, because he's not playing for the 21s. He's not playing for the first team. He's in this match preparation squad and is keen to play minutes. So he is keen to move out. And again, Michael Carrick may target him in January. According to Alan Nixon, Boro have a list of centre-backs and are targeting a centre-back in the January window. And Charlie Cresswell is on that list of names, of players that they want. And as I said, Cresswell is keen to move on as well, at least in the short-term basis, to play some football. Hasn't had a lot of time with Leeds. Hasn't been seen as the second backup option for the right centre-back role. Leeds have rather moved players out of position in order to cater for injuries or suspensions or missing players on the right hand side, which hasn't worked particularly well when it has been done, but they've done that rather than play Charlie Cresswell, which for me has always seemed like a strange decision to make. But there you go, that's the decision. So, and yeah, that's pretty much it for today, folks. There's a lot of stuff floating around. I'd love your thoughts on that. Charlie Cresswell is a loan move, probably the best thing for him, at least short term. He's got a 5-year contract at Leeds. He's not going anywhere if Leeds don't want him to, so go out, get some loan games, play some minutes. As well as Trei Hume coming in on as a possible option for Leeds as well. They are clearly identifying the fullback positions as an area in terms of long-term future. If you listen to Daniel Farke during the week, he talked about Greta Steinson, Angus Kinnear and Nick Hammond talking about the longer term plan at Leeds United. They've already discussed the short term plan, so some of these names popping up with players Leeds will look to buy end of season, later in the year, or players for the future. Outside of the short term stuff that Daniel Farke has said, they've already identified their short term targets, so we'll see how that goes. That's been a long one today, folks. But there's a bit of news floating around for once, so it'll probably be nothing at all tomorrow. We'll see how it goes. I'll see you tomorrow morning for more Leeds news. Thanks as always for supporting the channel. We'll see you then. Bye.